My name is Dan Heaton. In 1995, I started riding unicycles and began to make films highlighting the riding myself and others were doing. Now I've decided to make a film that is a little different. A film that tells the story of how our sport, off-road unicycling, came to be. How unicycling became something even we never imagined it would ever become.
He rides unicycles like nobody else rides unicycles.
Well, believe it or not, we have found a guy who can actually unicycle this territory.
A unicycling underground has begun to thrive.
The reaction from two-wheelers is just plain disbelief.
One of the newest sports on the horizon.
They've even made like a video.
If
you think a unicycle is hard to ride, I know it was for me. Imagine doing it on a mountain.
The year is 1981. Looking at unicycling at this time, you'd find a hobby that was rooted in performance and skill-based activities. This is the same time period that one of these riders, John Voss, began expanding the limits of what unicycling could become. The sport was undergoing a revolution, a gradual shift in the way people rode and viewed unicycles.
When I was a kid, I used to ride around dirt trails in my area. It was a shortcut to get to school, to get to where I worked at one of my early jobs. And I've always liked the challenge of different types of terrain. We learned gradually over the years that other people were interested and liked riding off-road.
It was just a handful of people spread out around the world who individually came up with the idea of taking unicycling off-road. Some of the notable riders were Roger Davies and Duncan Castling of the UK, and Thierry Boucher from France. However, the first standout rider was an unassuming man from a small town in Alaska.
Those of you who are here today for arraignment have the following rights. You have the right to remain silent, the right to be represented by a lawyer, I do have to tell you. I'm George Peck. I'm currently 68. My job here in Seward is to be the local magistrate. Seward's existence really depends on fisheries.
George was known in his community as the legal authority. However, it wasn't long before he became known around town for something completely different. George's interest in unicycling developed after he read it was good cross-training for windsurfing. He decided to give it a try after his wife found a little red unicycle abandoned at the city dump.
I said I wanted a unicycle, and of course there were no unicycles in Seward, and she goes to the dump regularly and brings home all manner of broken toys. So this happened to be one of the items. You know, I gave it a try, and it worked for a few days, but it obviously had its weaknesses.
As George's skills developed, it seemed natural for him to take his new skill into Seward's rugged environment.
It resonated with some features of my personality, like I like to be outdoors, I like a challenge, and I like to exercise, and it seemed to offer all of the above. This is Jezebel, who has been my constant companion in all my trail rides. We rode every weekend and many weekdays, so she's probably got, I don't know, 1,000 miles on her on trails and riverbeds and mountains. I was always alone. There was nobody else to ride with. The unicycle is so personable, so private, so quiet. There's no chain clatter, there's no nothing. It's just you, and you really feel like you're part of the train. I think a big benchmark for me was learning to hop. One day I was trying to get up this hill and I just started hopping, and it was like, wow, look at all the new things this opens up.
George's newfound hopping skills laid the groundwork for unicycle trials, a form of unicycling where riders use their skills to negotiate over obstacles. His riding culminated in a self-produced video that would introduce his riding to the unicycle community.
This is a film about rough terrain unicycling. Hello.
In 1991, I believe, he came out with his video, and that was a major inspiration to the people who saw it to go forward with off-road riding.
It was just amazing to me. I had been mountain biking for 15 years. Here was a guy way older than me going on way rougher terrain and on a unicycle, which just looked impossible. So that just immediately made me want to learn.
So let's turn now to the basic skills and equipment you will need to get started. Protective equipment is vital to fun and injury-free riding. For Big Rock, I use a mast pad beefed up with a kitty litter pan bottom and another layer of foam.
When I first saw rough terrain unicycling, I thought, the guy was crazy.
These are dream slabs to work. They are stable, rough, and only moderately tilted.
Rough terrain unicycling opened up people's eyes to riding on something other than asphalt and concrete or in a gym or down the sidewalk.
That could mean steps, boxes, railroad tracks, rocks, curbs, slabs of tilted cement, mountains, snow and ice, dry creek and river beds.
And the fact that he was like an elderly guy versus all us young kids at the time, it just kind of blew everybody away.
George's video had a profound impact on those who saw it, but the 50 copies he produced weren't seen by many people. The small number of riders around the world who had taken up the sport remained disconnected, riding alone, with no common ground to share their interest. It wouldn't be until the mid-90s before that would begin to change.
In 1994, I moved to California, and I started riding the trails there. It just occurred to me, I don't know, I have to share this, It's time to get a bunch of people together and come out here and say, let's just do an off-road unicycle event. And that became the 1996 California Mountain Unicycle Weekend.
On October 5th, 1996, 35 unicyclists from around the country and as far away as England converged on Sacramento's Auburn Valley. It was finally a chance for riders to share their skills and passion for mountain unicycling.
For a lot of the people, I think it was a chance to ride with other people.
It's just something you normally do by yourself. Suddenly you've got 60 people. Everybody's interested in the same thing. Everybody's got the same passion.
The California Mountain Unicycle Weekend was repeated again in 1997 and 1998.
Number one thing on a unicycle is attitude. If you think you can't ride the hill, you won't. I guarantee it. It's totally attitude.
Yes!
And our third year of Muni Weekend, 1998, we had Notable new guy. This guy from Canada came in.
He was very quiet, didn't say much, didn't introduce himself. We were all trying to ride down this really steep, slippery slope, and everybody was crashing and laughing, and no one came close to riding it. And then Chris Holm walked up and just rode it first time.
Already I was thinking, dang, where does this guy practice?
So we realized there was something special about him.
Later I learned it was the first time he had ever ridden with other unicyclists, but he was already way ahead of us in the skill department. He was the best off-road rider we had all seen.
A Vancouver man is the master of this little-known extreme sport, mountain unicycling. Chris Holm.
Oh, I knew he was the wave of the future. He had all the skills.
He was the most visible unicyclist in the world.
He just kind of flew down, big steep hills.
I got into unicycling because I saw a street performer who was playing a violin on a unicycle. And I thought that was pretty cool because I actually play the violin and I thought, I want to learn how to do that. So I asked for one for my 12th birthday. I come from a really outdoorsy family. We do hiking and climbing and skiing together. With a lot of those sports, they have really one thing in common, and that's trying to negotiate over some kind of hard terrain. So for me, the mentality of riding difficult terrain was pretty logical.
How in the world, why in the world did you start doing this?
I lived near a beach, by trails, that sort of thing, and it was actually a fairly natural thing to, once I learned how to ride down the straight, try to do some more difficult things. And in my case, that meant riding rocks and logs.
Rocks and logs.
We're at Spanish Banks, which is just on the west side of Vancouver, on the logs and the rocks and the beach. You know, I really love coming down here. This is my favorite spot in the world to do trials because there's endless lines. Every winter storm, they're different, and it's just beautiful. You know, I could hang out here and read a book or ride trials. It's just gorgeous. You got the mountains in the background and the Vancouver skyline, and these awesome logs that wash up on the beach all year round. One of the things that I like the most about riding is the focus. In day-to-day life, we're usually thinking about a million different things at once, whereas if you're riding and it's hard, you're thinking about riding. And if you're not thinking about riding, usually you're falling. I love that focus. I love that feeling of just being in the moment. And there's few activities that I've ever done where I can easily enter into that moment so quickly. I can jump on my unicycle, go for a ride, and everything else falls away. One of the places I do that a lot is Wreck Beach, which is actually a nude beach right by my house. You get some encounters with all kinds of retro nouveau hippies. People have kind of built their castles in the sand for sun tanning, and so you get logs arranged in configurations that you just never see at a normal beach. Little did they know that they were building an absolutely world-class unicycle trials playground. In 1997, I moved to Vancouver and discovered the Vancouver North Shore. For me, that was a huge revelation because all of a sudden, a lot of the things that I'd found that I loved to ride on the beach, like logs, were now in the woods. So it sort of combined all the cool things that I wanted to do. Word got round that some guy was riding a unicycle on trails that were supposed to be some of the hardest trails anywhere. Only within maybe 3 weeks after starting riding there, I started getting calls from videographers.
Chris started doing mountain bike videos and showing the sport to a much wider audience.
Chris's presence in mountain bike films brought new attention to the sport. As a result, Chris became the first sponsored mountain unicyclist, joining the Norco factory trials team in 1999.
It kind of exploded from there. Pretty soon, it got to the point where I was doing a TV show or a magazine feature almost every 2 weeks.
You could see him on lots of different TV shows doing ridiculous, outrageous riding on walls and cliff edges and just places that your mom would die if she saw you doing it.
There was still a total disbelief. It was really viewed as something singular, that there was this one guy up here.
If you can't become a professional at this, you can certainly join a circus.
Actually, mountain unicycling has nothing to do with the circus.
It was so frustrating that no one knew about this sport. It was kind of like this secret almost, that it worked. And there was so much skepticism, and there were so many times when people would come up to me when I was riding up here and say, "I can't believe you're doing that on one wheel." And I really wanted to say, but it's not a freaky thing. It's really something that you can do. You can really do it. And I really wanted to change the way the world felt about our sport.
People in circuses are incredible athletes, but I'd like to stress that this is an adventure sport.
For Chris, that drive to combine unicycling and adventure worked remarkably well. His riding took him to unique locations around the world, including filming for a feature-length documentary for Outside Television. At the same time Chris was pushing the boundaries of mountain and trials unicycling, another revolution was taking place. Just south of Vancouver in Seattle, Washington, one rider would radically change the way unicycles were ridden and viewed.
I was always a pretty shy, small, not very athletic kid, and unicycling became my way of expressing myself. I was just having fun on my unicycle. I never expected anything to come out of it.
The man is credited with starting street unicycling. Dan Heaton.
I got a unicycle for Christmas in 1995. I was interested in the challenge of it and wanted to try to do something different. When I first started trying to learn how to unicycle, I thought it was impossible. It just felt totally unnatural. I'd never seen anybody unicycle before, and I didn't have anybody to help me learn. I just kept practicing over and over and over, and eventually, after 3 months, it just clicked. I found out that there was a local unicycle club. I got involved with them, riding with other people, learning tricks, and doing shows and performances. I wasn't too into the performance side of things, so I kind of moved away from that and just started doing my own thing.
Dan received one of the few copies of George Peck's video, which inspired him to take up mountain unicycling.
I found out about the California Mountain Unicycle Weekend. I went to that event in 1997 and 1998. I was meeting a lot of the people that were pioneering the sport, guys like John Foss and George Peck. I was always trying to keep up with what Chris was doing because I really liked his riding. It didn't always work out. I was having a lot of bad falls and probably riding outside of my limits.
Oh, you okay?
It would be Dan's freestyle background that allowed him to stand out from other mountain unicyclists.
In the late 90s, Dan Heaton came along and started taking the freestyle, which he'd learned originally, and combining that with trials.
And that became street unicycling. Street unicycling was a completely new style where instead of just trying to get over obstacles, you tried to do tricks with those obstacles. I had seen bikes and skateboards do tricks, and I always wondered if it was possible to do those things on a unicycle, so that really became my goal.
In the beginning, street unicycling was limited to what Dan could find in his own backyard. Wanting to find better obstacles, he took his unicycling to the local skate park.
I'd walk up to the skate park and everybody would just stop and look at me and start laughing and making jokes. I didn't have very many tricks that I could do, and I was really just practicing things to see if they were possible. People really didn't understand what I was doing. I always felt awkward being at the skate park. We're at Gasworks Park in Seattle. It's my favorite place to ride because there's tons of stuff to ride on down here, and the people here are generally a lot more into what I'm doing, a lot more accepting of the unicycling than at places like the skate park.
Yeah, how you living? That's the question, yo. Answer that, yo. Yeah, let's do this, Inferno. Yeah, let's go. 1, 2, I'm the microphone check. Flying out my nest of leaves with infected wings. And a mic on my chest, drowning in candy wrappers, eating sugar-coated sugar, fighting prowlers, slaying goblins. Look, when a dragon put you with a never-ending nights, turning to months and months are full of fights. For whatever height to enlighten your touch it ever so carefully and break it through the vessel. Irritate your scab, wrestling spoons are stressless. The best kept secrets is Diamond D that line your cheek, plucking pine cones, climbing a spine of trees, drinking waste, and bottles of toxic. Top down through the cosmos, wielding a power cosmic, still sleepless in Seattle under the needle with the beast in battle, trying to catch up on my dreams of channel, trying to learn and gain knowledge through a payphone. I had to say peace but paid homage, 7 days of the same clothes. Yeah, I'm sorry mama. 7 days of the same clothes. Yeah, 7 days of the same clothes. Yeah, 7 days of the same clothes. Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Oops, I want to tape all shit. Sorry, we didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, we're just checking out here, seeing if there's anything to ride.
Okay, yeah. Jump off the edge here.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's do it.
No! Are you really? Yeah. Are you serious? Are you freaking insane?
Nice.
Oh, no! Shit!
Kidding me. Oh, shit. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. All right, check this out.
And then she's jumping off with the high five?
See if we can do this.
Oh! I got a fingertip. Give it a tick. Hey, give me some love. Hey, give me some love. Cup, man. Yeah. That's totally insane.
That had to feel good.
When I was in high school, I had a friend, Adam Risnar, who would unicycle with me. We were taking a video class in school and got the idea that, hey, let's make a highlight video of unicycling.
Adam, let's document some moves on tape with the names. What about a one-handed clock tower elbows?
Originally, it was almost kind of a joke.
Let's see a double jackhammer.
We started filming ourselves, just kind of doing some stupid stuff.
Dan, get over here. Check this out. Oh man, that's a gash.
As we were filming, we really started to get better at riding. Eventually, we started connecting with some of the more known riders in the sport.
Dan Heaton came down from Washington and wanted to shoot some riding, so we took him around to local trails and started shooting video.
Stick it on the damn unicycle. You ready?
I'm recording.
Nice work, you got it, you got it. Roll out, roll out.
Oh, yes, that's so bad, man.
They started filming, and then they came up here, and we continued that on the North Shore and in urban Vancouver.
We really got a sense that maybe this video could be more than just a high school project.
Oh, shit!
We had never made a video before, but we just filmed the progression of our riding and filmed with some other riders and released a full-length video on the sport.
4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody out there ready? Go! Get up!
This was the first kind of modern style unicycle video that was out there, and it got sold commercially all over the world.
Get up!
For the first time, unicycling wasn't just a segment in a bike video, it had its own video.
The Universe video had a great premiere at Unicon 10 in Beijing, China.
Unicon 10, the Unicycling World Championships, put traditional forms of unicycling center stage.
You had an event where 800 people were getting together, and then you had this video, which was totally unlike what anybody had really seen before that.
And the premiere was unbelievable. We were sitting in a bar in China.
And we were able to cobble together a TV and a VCR.
I think we were there with about 100 people, all unicyclists.
People from all over the world gathered around this one little TV set, and they were all spellbound. I mean, I remember the reactions of people. You know, people were just like, wow, wow.
The barkeeper pretty quickly realized that if he kept playing this video over and over, it was really good for his business. So he'd play it, and it looped, and it looped, and it looped for hours and hours.
It put the sport out there so people could see it.
It took it from there. It took it in a huge direction to Europe, to Asia, and North America and elsewhere, where people took that home with them and started doing it themselves.
It really opened the unicycle community's eyes to this sport.
The Universe video changed people's conceptions of what could be done on a unicycle, bringing a whole new generation into the sport. However, there was still one remaining barrier that plagued all off-road unicyclists: the quality and availability of equipment.
Currently available stock unicycles are not up to long-term use in rough terrain. These are a few of the dozens of axles I have broken from these machines.
Most of us were on normal, regular, off-the-shelf unicycles, or those same unicycles with a knobby tire stuck on, and the unicycles would just break.
You would go out on a ride, and your ride would end when your equipment broke. It didn't end when you were too tired or when you wanted to stop riding. And sometimes that was within 5 minutes. Sometimes you'd get lucky and you could ride for an hour or two.
Okay, here, another broken unicycle. Damn it.
I had huge challenges with broken gear in the beginning, and it really also affected what I rode. A lot of the terrain that I rode was bumpy and technical, but it didn't involve, for example, big drops, because I would have busted my unicycle.
We were pretty much breaking something every ride. If we had a group of 6 or 8 people, somebody would break a frame, a hub, a seat post.
Your crank arms would bend, the pedals might come apart.
Broken rims, broken spokes, broken cranks, hubs, you name it pretty much. I broke it. And it was really, really frustrating and expensive, really. You know, I'd break it, I'd be out for 3 weeks.
When you were looking for strong equipment 10 years ago, basically, unless you could make it yourself or you knew a machinist that could make it for you, you were pretty much on your own.
I started looking around for machine shops because that was really what I thought could be the only solution, considering that you couldn't actually buy a mountain unicycle at the time.
Well, these one-offs are $1,000 a piece, because you're paying a craftsman for his time, and then you break it, and then you modify it, and then you pay him another $400, $500, $600 to do something else to it, and then you break it and you modify it. So it added up.
It was expensive. I was paying hourly shop rates for that. I think my first unicycle cost me close to $3,000 by the time I went through prototypes and failures.
These were pretty strong. I only broke a couple of these. This is off some sort of mountain bike setup with an elastomer in here. Didn't work.
So because of all the people in the past, like George Peck and Chris Holm and Dan Heaton, looking for high-end equipment, now there's actually manufacturers making it, and it's available today. I started selling unicycles out of the back of my hearse back in around 1993. And when things got a little bit bigger, I had to open up a shop. And here we are pulling down the back of the factory. When people come in here, they're totally blown away because they're used to going to a bicycle store where they'd have like 120-inch or 124, or occasionally even maybe a tall one. But there's nowhere you can just go and see like 80 or 100 unicycles on display ready to ride. A few years back, I thought, you know, I want to customize unicycles, make them cool. So you can see along here, I have powder-coated rims in many colors, many sizes, and I can pretty much build any unicycle, you know, however you want it. You know, that kind of personalizes a unicycle. The very key component on a unicycle today is definitely hub and cranks. Big tires for off-road unicycling, super big and wide alloy rims, alloy frames. Just in general, the unicycles have come a long way. This is my t-shirt rack here, and I have about 35 different t-shirts, and these are all cartoon versions of actual people that I thought did something really cool to promote the sport or kind of took it to another level. This is Mike Clark. This one here is Chris Holm, and here's Dan Heaton, and the last one I have on the rack is Kevin McMullen. What this does is it creates a role model for unicycling, which to me is incredible. Like, you hear about it in skateboarding and BMX, but you never really heard of it before in unicycling. And I feel that I've created kind of like a like a culture that unicyclists now can call their own.
Businesses like Bedford Unicycles and most notably online retailer Unicycle.com had helped to solve one of the sport's biggest problems. They had created a market for off-road unicycles, driving the prices down, while the quality of equipment was continually improving. With convenient access to off-road unicycles, new riders began popping up all over the world, continually expanding on the riding that Chris and Dan had introduced.
I wanted to go and meet these people and film the things that they were doing. So I started taking road trips around the country. I wanted to see the sport unfold firsthand, and I wanted to document that. People were taking what they saw in my video and not only learning it, but they were putting their own style into it, and they were riding in their own way.
Yeah! First fucking try! Yeah!
Man, I was so excited to go down to Boston and film for Defect with Dan because I'd seen Universe 2, and man, those were the videos to be in. If you were in one of Dan's videos, you know, people knew you right away. They knew your name, they knew your style of riding, and they were excited to meet you.
Being in Dan's videos really changed the way people looked at me when I went to a unicycle convention. All of a sudden, you'd show up at this convention and everybody knew who you were, and people wanted to talk to you. People would come up to you and want to have their pictures taken with you or ask for your autograph. It was weird. It kind of felt like you were a celebrity in this really small community.
Once we got better at riding, we could go to a skate park, and when we'd walk up, people would still start kind of laughing at us and look at us kind of weird.
You guys trying to join the circus?
But now we were better at riding, so we could go and just bust out one trick. Instantly, when people saw that, their attitudes changed towards what we were doing. They realized it was the exact same idea as what they were doing, but it was just on a unicycle. People really started to accept it and respect it.
Dan's dedication to filming our sport has been incredible. He barely makes any money off these videos, and this is a guy that broke both of his feet in a unicycling accident and was still out there filming like 2 days later.
Dan was in a wheelchair because he couldn't walk with his 2 broken feet, and he didn't want to stop filming, so I drove him from Michigan to Seattle, and we stopped in a few places and filmed people riding.
A lot of the people that are riding now are the same people that might have just picked up a skateboard, and for whatever reason, they tried a unicycle instead.
My name is Xavier Collot. I'm 20 years old and I live in Montpellier, in the south of France. I tried bicycle before. It's too complicated. 2 wheels, there is so much stuff and I don't understand. unicycle because you can do very creative stuff. In France, you see more and more people on the unicycle and mostly on street unicycling. I think Kevin McMullen is a crazy guy. He tried some very hard trick down a lot of stairs, and that's wow.
I like this sport so much, mostly because of the feeling I get when I land a big trick.
You got it.
I've fallen a lot when I've been unicycling. Usually it's not that bad, you can get up from it, but sometimes, you know, the same feeling of excitement you get when you land a big trick, it can go completely the opposite direction when you fall, and everything can just come down.
Oh my God!
Oh man, that was the worst fall I ever had. I got stuck on it, stepped off, put one foot on the rail, and had my right foot cross over and fell directly on the stairs with my back and my head.
I think one of the big changes in the sport has been that now there's risk, physical risk associated with it that there wasn't historically.
Here we go.
Oh! Nuts in my head. Oh! Oh God! Oh God! Oh man! Oh son of a bitch! No! Dude, fucking A. Man! Oh God! That hurts.
Sean Johannesson has a pretty out there personality.
My name is Sean Johannesson, and I'm 20 years old from Mandan, North Dakota. Woo! I used to watch videos of Dan Heaton and Kevin McMullen, and I always tried to push to do that type of street riding and flow like that with that type of style. I was always the guy that wanted to be the person people talked about with street unicycling.
I gotta do it again. I gotta do it again. Yes!
This is the Mandan Skate Park. It's my favorite place to ride. It's got everything. It's got great rails, ledges, and you don't get kicked out.
For riders like Sean, who have become the new stars of the sport, opportunities have become much more frequent than in the past. They've provided a little extra motivation to help keep riders interested and involved in unicycling.
You can get sponsored fairly easily. You can get big sponsorships if you're good. You can get in TV commercials where you don't have to be a performer. There's all sorts of things now that didn't exist a few years ago.
People around here actually don't believe me when I tell them some of the things I've done. I've been to California for a fashion show. I did a commercial for an energy drink down in South America. I've been flown to competitions in Denmark and Germany. It's been quite a great trip for me with this sport.
Ready and action.
So Stacy, if you just want to tell me what you're doing up here in Seattle.
I'm up here with a crew of people and we're doing a commercial for Columbia Sportswear. And we're focusing on you, Dan Heaton, the great unicycler.
There you go, great.
It's the first time I saw like mountain unicycling. I was knocked out. I'd never seen it before, I didn't know it existed. I rode a unicycle as a kid and never in my wildest imagination did I think that you guys could do what you do. Can you get a little air off the top, whether it's pedaling in or just jump, stopping and doing it? What it is, again, this is kind of a beaut.
I've been watching the whole dang thing right here.
Yeah,
hey,
pretty
he's
awesome.
Been rocking, man. He's gonna get her done this time. Yeah. Nice. Oh, ouch. Man, I'm like going, how's this dude doing this crap? It's like, Jesus.
What's really cool about what you guys are doing is you're doing exactly on a unicycle what we did on skateboards 30 years ago. You're inventing a sport. When you see kids invent a sport, it opens up everybody's minds because you're showing us all the possibilities. Who would have ever thought?
I like unicycle because of the people that are involved in the sport. I like to meet new people and ride with anybody. It doesn't really matter their skill. Get together with them, have a good time. It seems that all you need to do is have that one thing in common, that you both ride a unicycle, and it seems that you're good friends from the start.
Yeah! Woo! I don't think I can generalize at all in terms of who unicycles, because it's everybody, it's anybody. It doesn't seem to be related to age or where you live.
There's thousands of people all over the world. There's kids in Australia, New Zealand, in Europe, Japan, all over the US and Canada that are doing the sport now.
I'd like to see it recognized as a sport more. I'd like to see it people understand unicycling better because they've seen what we do now and they've seen it more, and the public perception is changing, which has taken a really long time. We don't get that circus music so much like we used to.
Skills are becoming so phenomenal and the equipment's so good. I just want it to go where it can go.
It's not so much how big the sport is. I don't think the sport's going to get that big because it's too hard at a beginning level. I don't think we have to worry that it's going to get so mainstream that it becomes uninteresting. But I do want to see it become something that people do have the opportunity to get into if they choose, and that somehow also kind of keeps a sense of where we've come from. It keeps its soul.
It's hard to imagine they can go any bigger than they are now with, rail grinds and drops and hops, but I'm sure as time goes on, just like we couldn't believe there would be in the past, I'm sure the future holds a lot more to unicycling.